Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, founder and CEO at recruiting firm Riderflex. If you enjoyed today's guest interview, please give it a like and be sure to subscribe to the Riderflex podcast. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Try the #1 marketing platform for small business. Everything you need from design to marketing to CRM. Learn more at marketing360.com. Marketing 360. Fuel your brand.
Mike Mojica on the Riderflex podcast. Mike, I want you to know that when I was looking at your profile and getting ready and studying, I felt really out of shape and kind of fat after I studied your profile, just so you know.
Got some bad knees right now. Don't feel bad.
You got some bad knees? Well, yeah, you probably do compared to or based on all the stuff you've done. I mean, damn. Are you an endurance athlete or just kind of how would you describe yourself athletically these days?
I'm more of a weekend warrior right now. I've done one 50 miler. That was 3 years ago. But I feel like that's where I get my revelation, if you will. If I'm out on a trail, if I'm running, I usually come home with some idea. And so it's kind of my place just to get inspiration. And so by nature, I like to be out either hiking or running. And lately I've been suffering some bad knees. It's been bad. I had to take off for a while, let them recoup. So I wanted to do a 100 miler this year, but it won't happen. I'm running 5Ks daily now, but my knees can only take so much.
Okay. Now, are you one of those guys that counts calories? Do you have like little Tupperware containers with calorie numbers with a little tape on them? Or
No, I do have an app. So occasionally I'll log, and then I think I hone myself in to figure out, okay, this is about 1,800 calories or so. That's what I need. That's what I feel good with. I like to think I'm a counter, but I'm not. It's okay if I splurge. Right. It's not a big deal.
But you don't go through McDonald's drive-thru very often, I'm guessing.
Probably 3 times a year. It's something about those cheeseburgers. I don't know. Something magical happens when you put French fries and ketchup inside that cheeseburger. It's like $1.50. It's like an experience. I'm like, why do I love this so much? I know it's horrible for me. So about 3 times a year, maybe once a quarter.
3 times a year. Okay.
I'm like, yeah, I need a cheeseburger right now.
That's pretty good. Were you always an athletic, in shape guy, conscious about that? Or were you like the fat kid in junior high, or what was your story?
No, my mom was always a runner. And so I just grew up with I had one of those tiny BMX bikes, and I would just go out with her. I was an Army brat. And so we were in Germany, just living off base. And so we would go out, run in the woods like every day, and I'd ride a bike with her. And so I just kind of followed in her footsteps, if you will. I finally got off the bike and just started running. I've always enjoyed it. I'm by no means a collegiate athlete. I did a little rugby and a little powerlifting in college, but my patella split into 3 my senior year of high school. So I thought maybe I had a chance to run, D2, D1 maybe, but that didn't happen. So I ended up doing other stuff.
No, that's okay. So you're an Army brat, huh? So your folks were your mom and dad both in the military. What's the story? Give me the childhood story there a little bit.
Yeah. So my father, Dave, he did 20 years in the Army, 2 tours in Vietnam, Purple Heart. I think
really. Whoa. Let's just take a deep breath there. That's a big deal. I don't get a lot of people on the podcast that had a dad with a Purple Heart sitting on the wall somewhere at the house. That's a big deal. Wow. Cool. Very cool. Tell him I said thank you very much for his service. That's pretty awesome.
Will do. Yeah. I love him to death. And I can't think of anytime I see a person walking fatigues, I'm always thanking them. It's the utmost respect. I'm surprised I never joined the military. I always thought I would end up being a dirty contractor for the Army and the Air Force for a little bit. I would design I'd modify vehicles for them, whether it be Stryker vehicles or fixed wing stuff, MQ-9 Reapers for the Air Force and PC-12s. So I was always around the military. I just never joined it.
Okay. All right. So your dad was a 20-year. Did he do anything after or just retire? What did he do?
He actually worked for the Veteran Affairs for 20 more years. And
wow.
Yeah, it was like teaching people about the benefits, what they could receive. He was put on special assignment to reach out to the Native American community. Cool. They noticed that like a ton of vets from the Native community weren't taking any benefits, and so they're like, "Hey guys, like this is available for you. Please take it." So he was privileged to do that. If you get into me, you will know that I'm part Native American, and it was a
gotcha.
blessing.
Gotcha. But so he was Native American then.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Native
that's
American, Mexican American is my heritage from both my parents.
gotcha. Is Mojico a Spanish or a Native American name?
It's Spanish. Yeah. So my native name is Bodaway, which means fire maker, and we'll
That's
get into
cool.
that as it kind of folds into the
Yeah, yeah,
difference.
yeah. Cool. Very cool. Okay. All right. And then your mom, she was a runner, but what'd she do for, and then she was in the service too?
No. She raised the kids. She and my dad went to college, I think when I went to college. And so
Oh,
she became a school teacher as I was exiting college. And yeah, so
how
she
about
focused a
that?
lot on ESL, English as a second language. And she was, yeah, phenomenal. She had a rough time growing up. She didn't speak a lick of English, and she was kind of traumatized in her experience. And so she wanted to kind of give back. And when she had the opportunity, after raising 4 kids, she's like, I'm going to school. So she got her degree and became a teacher.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Your parents are impressive then. Yeah. Impressive. Both still alive?
Yes.
Still married?
I have one grandfather alive. He is 95.
Whoa.
That's some
Okay.
longevity in me. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Parents still married?
They are
How about that, man? Okay. Good.
51 years, I believe 51 years.
What? Okay. Yeah. That's that's pretty special. I'm sure you know that by
Yeah.
all the people you meet. Like, I mean, how many people have been married 50 something years? Not a ton.
Right. It's dedication, it's work. I think that's one thing that, I kind of gleaned from my parents, like good things, it takes work. If you want a good result, you got to work at it. You don't just get things handed to you and expect it to be always, you know, sunshine and flowers. It's like you work through the hard times and you become better because of it.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah. You can't just go to Starbucks and send out a few tweets on social media and think good things are just going to fall out of the sky. It
That's
just
right.
doesn't work that way.
Yeah. My dad taught me, he's like, look, son, this is what you do. Like you get on your knees and you pray like it all depends on God. And then you get up and you work like it all depends on you. I'm like, great advice. So
Oh man, that's a good line. I'm gonna have to use that. That's a
go
good
for
one.
it.
That's a good one. You can tell him I'm going to steal that. I like that a lot. Right? That's
Awesome.
pretty good. Okay, now it was you and your, what'd you say, brother, sister? What siblings?
So I have an older brother, and then I have a twin sister and a younger brother.
Oh, all right, very good. Not well, obviously not identical, but I
Yeah.
mean, does she look a lot like you?
Not close. We're not remotely close. So,
No, really
yeah.
interesting. Okay,
She
okay.
came out with like more auburn reddish hair as a younger child, and then it's gotten more brown now that we're
Interesting.
getting older. But yeah,
Okay.
just like what? But I mean, you can tell she's a Mojica looking at her face,
Mhm.
but looking me and her,
Okay.
we're just not.
Now,
We're
now
siblings. That's what we are.
were you a good kid? Were you like at the library every day? Were you like getting in trouble? Where were you in the mix there?
I definitely wasn't a bad kid. I appreciated some adventure, but it was usually me building a fort, breaking a leg, running downstairs and stuff. But as far as study goes, like I've always enjoyed study, and I was never
Okay.
really good at it either. And so I would always I was the kid that like would get mad because this other kid would never take notes and he still bust out an A and never do his homework. And it's like I would always do my homework and study because I just appreciated learning. And so I wasn't the smartest kid on the block, but I made it through high school with I think an A average, but it was all work and no
Hey,
talent. So,
a average, and plus you went to University of Texas, which is pretty cool. I mean, Austin's a great place to go to college, especially in the late '90s. I bet you had fun.
I did. It was great. I saw Ricky Williams play,
Cool,
and I had
cool.
a weightlifting course right after he was working out, so we,
You'd
talked
see him in the
sometimes.
hallway.
And yeah. Like, what's up, Ricky? And he was the coolest guy. I couldn't believe, like, I thought he'd be like, I'm don't talk to me. I'm Ricky Williams, but he was pretty cool. I worked at Foot Locker when I was in college, and he came in. And I'm like, Ricky, what do you think when you see this jersey hanging up here? And he's like, who's that? He acted like he wasn't Ricky Williams. Like, come on. His girlfriend's like, come on, Ricky, that's you. It was fun to kind of get to see collegiate athletes. It was good times.
Yeah, Texas. I lived in Austin, by the way, those exact years. I lived there from like 96 to 2001. So I was there. I was in the mix. Who knows? Maybe I saw you at Foot Locker. I don't know. But I do know this. It was a great town to be single in. I was actually single at the time because I was before I met Kim, my second wife. But yeah, great town. So all right. So what did you think you were gonna do? Right. I mean, what was the plan? What was your plan early on?
Early. So I was the guy that I wanted to invent stuff. So I
Okay.
came on one day, like high school, like maybe it was a freshman or something. I'm like, I want to make it a cordless extension cord. So I blew a few fuses in my house. I realized electricity is not for me. So I went more on the mechanical side. And then I'm like, all right, I think I want to be an engineer. Part of me wanted to be an art major. I also quasi creative. I like to draw and paint a little bit. And
Okay. Okay.
so I was an art major for a year and I chickened out. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be a poor starving artist. But I like math, so let's go back to engineering. So I ended up
Okay.
being a
Right.
engineering. It's if you look at my college career path, I was all over the place. Like I probably had 6, 7 majors, always knowing that I wanted to create and
Make
invent.
something, create
Yeah,
something. Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I actually graduated UT with like an Asian studies degree,
What?
emphasis on Chinese language and culture. And then I had an engineering firm pick me up and pay to finish college for my engineering degree. And so
Wow.
it's
Wow.
interesting. I took a couple years off. I went to Taiwan. I did some missionary work.
Oh,
And when
cool.
I got back to UT, I was like, what's the quickest degree I can get? Because I think I'm ready to be done. And so I clapped at a couple of Chinese classes and I did a bunch of, culture and more Chinese classes. And having lived there for 2 years in Taiwan, you kind of pick up on culture, the
Mm,
language,
mm.
albeit I'm not a great Mandarin speaker, but I was able to finagle my way through school. And and then once I was done, I was like, all right, how do I design stuff? And then it turns out that
I
engineering
see.
firms don't want an Asian studies degree person to work for them. And yeah, so I went backwards. Actually, I went to a tech school after my 4-year degree, and I got a 2-year degree in mechanical and electrical drafting and design.
All right.
Before I finished that, an engineering firm picked me up. They went to the school and said, "We need a designer. Like, you got to hire Mojica." And so they hired me, and then they were like, "Yeah, we love what you're doing. Let's go ahead and finish your ME degree." So they were able to help me out.
I see. Okay, very good. Well, I appreciate that. I was going to ask you how your Chinese was now, so it's decent. You can have a halfway decent conversation.
If you drop me off in China or Taiwan, I wouldn't be afraid, but I'd probably have Google Translate up at all times. But now two of my kids now are taking Chinese in high school, and so it's a
Uh,
good refresher for me. To
okay.
like, so for me going over with the kids, like, all
Yeah.
right, let's go over some, and let's speak some Chinese. And so it's been helpful because I really got rusty when I went to UT Arlington to finish my ME degree. One of the professors was Chinese, and I initially set up my first meeting with him in Chinese. I just called him on the phone, set it up, and when I got to his office, um, his secretary's like, "Hey, your 3 o'clock's here." He looked at it, he's like, "Oh no, my 3 o'clock's a Chinese guy." I was like, "Oh, well, sure." I told him, "This is me." He's like, "No way, get in here." And by the time I finished my degree, he was like, "Hey, Mike, like when you first come to this school, your Chinese is so good. And now it's so bad. Your
No,
Chinese
it's
is so bad."
terrible.
Yeah. And I was like, "Professor, I don't
Uh,
have time to study. I'm doing all this, I have a mortgage, I have a job, and I have this finishing this ME degree. I have no time to study Chinese." And so he's like, "You need to come to my office every week. We just need to talk." And
uh,
but
I-
it's gotten so rusty, but it's been advantageous. I live a couple of
yeah.
factories right now in China,
Oh,
and
I was
it's
just
good to
about
go
to
over
ask you
there and
that.
I don't have to hire
Yep.
a translator. I can just kind of
Yep.
go over, and with their bad English and my bad Chinese, we make it work.
You know what? I'm sure that's a huge blessing is, getting when we get into your company there that you can have a little conversation. You can, the culture a little bit. There's an emotional connection between you and them. Yeah, I bet that really helps. I want to ask you, your wife, how'd you meet? Because you said kids. So I'm guessing what do you got? Two? You got two kids?
Four, four
Four.
girls, four
Four
girls,
girls.
lots of emotion in my house. Yeah, yeah. So oldest 16, and then 14, and then 10 and 7.
Ooh, you got two
And
teenage girls too. Woo.
yes, yeah.
Woo.
Thankfully, they're
Woo.
right now into sports more than guys, and so they're
Okay.
cross country and track girls. One's doing the pole vault, and one's more of a long distance girl. And so I like to focus on that and pretend that boys don't exist right now. But they're beautiful, and I'm worried. I
Yeah,
do
dude.
I do design some knives, so I always have those out if someone comes over.
Yeah, you do
So yeah,
sell knives on the website. I saw that. So
yeah,
yeah, tell the boys like, hey, tell them come on here. I want to have a conversation with them.
that's right.
Four girls. How'd you meet your wife?
I met my wife in at church.
Cool.
I was in 7th grade. She was in
Mhm.
5th. And it wasn't like we dated forever, but our families met each other then. And then we just kind of knew each other growing up. I actually went down to Austin to school. I think she went up to Idaho for school for a little bit. And then we started dating when we left Texas, or when we left our hometown. Because I was still in Austin. And so then after I had done some missionary work, we met up again. I was like, hey, that was a good time we had. So do you want to start dating again? And one thing led to another. We got married. It's been blissful. It's the best decision of my life was Noelle Mojica, or Noelle Mayfield at the time.
That's pretty cool. Now, you've mentioned your faith a couple of times. So your faith, your religion is important to you. Obviously, I'm picking up on that. That's a big part of your life.
It is. Yeah. I belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or AKA Mormons, as often people will call us. I tell my kids, it's like, this is part of our culture. Like, we believe in God, and it's okay to be a Christian, and let other people know. We don't need to force it on anybody, but like, let's live our standard. And it's okay to have boundaries without battle lines. It's like, it's okay.
Man, you got some good lines, Mike. There's several. You got some good ones in there. I like that.
I probably stole that one from some leadership. So yeah. Yeah. I love, it's funny when someone asked me my pronouns the other day, and I was like, pronouns, and so I wrote he, him, comma, child of God, comma, dreamer. And I was like, this is how I want to be known. And I said, look, if I got in a line, you said all the he, hims walk forward, I will walk forward. And if you said all the dreamers walk forward, like, I will leap. And so you tell all the child of Gods to walk forward, it's like, I will crawl on broken glass.
That's cool, man. Very cool. That's very cool. I appreciate you sharing that with us, man. It's very good it's very humbling and joyful to hear somebody talk about their religion and faith openly, and not be scared to talk about it, or not be ashamed to talk about it, or not be afraid to talk about it, that they might be attacked or whatever. Because it feels like, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but it just feels like people that highlight their religion seem to be attacked a lot these days. And by the way, my mom is, I grew up Assembly of God. So we were Assembly of God. I grew up in Oklahoma, which is a very conservative religious, as you probably know.
Yeah.
And I was in church, three times a week until I got old enough to fight back a little bit. And so I only had to go one time a week, but my point is it's good to see that you're open about it, and you're brave enough to talk about it without worried about any kind of retribution. Because boy, it just seems there's a lot of negative stuff towards folks. And so I'm happy to see that you.
Yeah. I feel like that's pretty realistic. Like, there's some people out there that for whatever reason they want to knock on faith, but I feel like those who really get to know me, like, we're friends, and we get to know each other, and it's just, we all come with maybe our set of biases that we grew up with, and we just don't have that experience. And when you actually experience like a real friend, you find out about them, then it's like, oh, like, you're not that bad. In fact, I might like you, and I felt like that's mostly how it was, and I really got a glimpse of that when I was in Taiwan doing mission work, because I was not only introducing like this Book of Mormon, but also this Bible, right? It was like, oh, you've heard of Jesus, and I grew this great respect for the Buddhist faith and the Taoist faith. And like, there's a lot of common, especially like familial piety. It's like, they believe like strong family ties. And it's like, and I just grew to appreciate like what faith can do for people. And no matter what faith it is, if they're really believing it, it's like, they're generally just really good people,
That's true. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I can't remember the exact line you said earlier, but I'm going to kind of paraphrase here. I'm like you. I'm so much like you with regards to like, look, man, I don't care what your faith is. I don't care what your sex is, your religion, your race, your political beliefs. Listen, man, you be you. It's cool. I'm not going to try to, I think what you said, I'm not going to force, I'm going to have my beliefs, but I'm not going to force them on you. And by the way, I'm not going to be mad at you and hate you and demonize you either.
Amen.
That's it. That's the part about social media that drives me nuts. It's like, look, if I met a guy, here's a perfect example, and I'm ranting for a second here. If I met a guy at the bar, right? Let's just say I'm at the bar, I'm having a beer, and he told me he likes the color purple and I like the color yellow. Like, I'm not going to like just be mean to him and say mean things and start demonizing him in the bar. I'm just going to continue to have a conversation with him like he's a regular person.
Him. Yeah.
You're not going to exclude him. Nothing like,
right.
hey, you want to play a game of pool? No, I can't play pool with you, man, because you like purple and I like yellow. It's like, come on, you know. But on social media, we just attack each other for that.
And I think that's honestly like part of the downfall, the crumble of our society is that we lost the human interaction.
Yes.
Right. Like,
yes.
like I talk to my neighbors and then I talk to other people who don't know their neighbors. Like you've been living there for 10 years, you don't know your neighbors. Like we need to get like, we're a community, man. We got to talk to each other. And when there's a problem, like I call my neighbor all the time, you know, and it's awesome to just have that relationship. And we are completely different people, like my neighbor and I.
But it's fine, right? Just because he doesn't believe all the things you believe, that doesn't matter.
Yes. Yes. That's it. That's it. And in my faith, I'm like, I believe that we're all like a family, like we're all children of God. And so I'm like, well, if we're all family, why don't we just treat each other that way? Let's just be cool like that, you know? And we can be different. You look at my family, like we have differences, man, I still love them, you know, sometimes I don't like them, but I always love them. And so I treat them that way, right? You know?
We'll move on to business off of this, but the one thing I want to say about any Mormon that I have ever been around, had dinner with, done business with, I just cannot think of a quote. I'm sure there are bad ones because there's bad people in every group.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, my experience is they're honest, they're on time, they're organized, they pay on time. They don't lie. They want to do good business. They want to do good things. I gotta tell.
Well, that's good to hear, and I hope that's true with me. I maybe fall short on the organized part, but I'm working on it. So.
I was at a when I was the president of another company before I started Riderflex. We had some vendors that were servicing the company, and they were Mormon guys. They were a marketing outfit, and they wanted to take me to dinner that night. And so they get to the restaurant first. There's three of them. I sat down at the table at this nice steak restaurant, and I like to have a cocktail before dinner. And so I sat down, and there's three guys saying super nice guys, right? And I'm looking around, and of course they all have iced tea, water, and like lemonade or whatever.
Right.
And I'm looking there, and there's I shit you not, Mike, there's like a 6 second delay in my head where I'm like, okay. I thought about like being nice and just ordering a Coke or something, but I didn't. I went ahead and ordered my bourbon, but still.
Just be you, right? We're going to take you where you are.
And you know what? They were fine with it. They were fine with it. They didn't like give me a hard time. Anyway. All right. So, so it's interesting that you didn't come from an entrepreneurial atmosphere necessarily, right?
But you know what? My dad really pushed the, like, this is America. This is the land of dreams.
Okay.
And you can do whatever you want.
All right. So that's where some of the seed was planted right there.
Totally.
Oh, I see. All right. And so let's move up here. So you had you went through a few jobs, right? You had some career here, right? Before you started Outdoor Element, correct?
Yes.
I don't want to touch on all those. I kind of want to skip to where when did you have this? Okay, I'm done working for somebody else. I'm going to start this.
Yeah. So I was married, and I got this engineering degree, and I fell into aerospace, probably because one of my professors, and I thought I had security was the issue. Yeah, I was like, oh, this is a secure job. This is fantastic. Yeah. And I went through 4 layoffs, and I remember one of them, just distinct, maybe I can tell 2 of them real quick. And it was I had this annual review, and my manager literally says, Mike, I can't find any deficiency about you. So just keep doing what you're doing. And I was like, really? And he was like, no, you're for real. You're awesome. Thank you. I'm like, thanks, man. I appreciate the compliment. I'm always looking to improve though. Help me out. He's like, no, for real. Just keep doing what you're doing. And then the next month I got laid off. And then and I was like, what? And I came to him. I was like, I took this job, and the only question I asked was about layoffs, because I had been through 3 prior to this. And I said, I'm just looking for stability. I'm growing my family, and I'm like, this is not good, man. And he's like, I'm sorry, it's out of my control. And most of the time layoffs are, and so I realized that despite your best efforts, you're not always in control. Right. That's I'd always had this aspirational thing, I want to invent stuff. And I was inventing things for great people, doing good things, especially for the military. I felt good about what I was doing. But I realized I didn't have control of my destiny. There's always someone else pushing numbers and deciding, well, we lost this contract, so we got to lay off half the engineers. And
Yes.
I was able to get a job within like 2 to 3 weeks. I think the longest
Still.
was like maybe a month, but it was like stressful. It's always the
Yeah.
stressful pay raise that I got. I'd come home to my wife like, hey, guess what? I get to have a pay raise because I got laid off, and it was, and so, and like the fourth time, she's just like, no,
Yeah.
that did not
No.
happen. I'm like, honey, I'm like, let's just hug right now. Let's just, and I think twice my wife was pregnant when I got laid off, and it was just like this. So I saw this,
yeah,
consistency, this, I don't know, this routine or, something that's this pattern in my life that I'm like, I'm not in full control. And I thought I did. I studied hard and I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I make it up with work, and so I decided, you know what, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So like, why not start something on the side? And so we sat down that last layoff and I'm like, honey, where do you want to live? Because I'm tired of Texas. It's got chiggers, it got fire ants, it's got humidity,
it's hot,
awesome
and
people, but it's so hot. It's so hot, right? And so
hot.
she's like, let's move to Colorado or Oregon. And so by happen chance, the first job I applied for up in Colorado was a nice aerospace company. I got that job. We moved up and I started Outdoor Element as a side hustle at that time with a good buddy of mine. And it just kind of sort of just trickled. We did a couple of Kickstarter campaigns to kind of do some validation of product, right? So
the early, not to interrupt you, but the early seed money was you and him plus the Kickstarter money. Is that how it was?
Yeah, mostly Kickstarter money. I mean, it was just maybe a few $1,000 for he and I.
Some sweat equity. Sweat equity.
Sweat equity is really what it was. So the first campaign we did, I think we raised about 50 grand. It was a fire starting
good for you
bracelet.
Great.
Right. And so I could throw a spark, get a fire going. We were able to raise 50 grand. And I thought I made it, honestly. It's like, oh, this is easy. Like this ain't hard. And because Outside Magazine did an article on me, like saying, bracelet,
yeah, you're like
one of 5 items to have to survive an apocalypse or a doomsday event. And I'm like, yes, I made it. And I was so wrong. It was like, that was a false pretense of, I was like, see, honey, I know what I'm doing. Within 6 months, we had knockoffs on the market. And, where imitation could be like the ultimate form of flattery or whatever, or it kills your bottom line, right? Just like crushed it. And then I applied for a patent, design and utility patent. Design went through, but utility didn't. And so there's like nothing I can do with these knockoffs, and they cheap like both quality and price. And so it's hard to convince a consumer like, no, mine's better quality because the Rockwell hardness is harder. Like, what is Rockwell hardness? Like, and so sometimes it's hard to explain these benefits when you're speaking engineering speak to those who just want to see the benefit and not know the features, and so it was a struggle, it was like, okay, I do not have this. Let's go back to the drawing board. What are we going to do about it? And our take was like continual innovation. But I'll go backwards real quick. I will say, I also discovered real quick that really good friends don't always make really good business partners.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that classic example, like we were like brothers and it wasn't working, and so I ended up buying him out, and then the company was kind of like dormant for a little bit. I figured out like I can't do this by myself, but I was just kind of leaving it existing, and a mutual friend put me together with another business guy who had complementary skill sets. That's like one of my advice to people, like if you're an engineer, you're a think tank or whatever, if you think you're creative, don't go find another creative person at the beginning. Like go find someone that's going to complement your skill set. And so he was operations and logistics, could understand how to scale. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I'm used to being in a cubicle or leading a group of engineers. I run a lab. How do you sell stuff to people? I don't know,
Yeah.
And so it was good to like be paired up, like that right synergy with the right skill sets to like for growth.
Did you make the second business partner? Did he have to buy in? How'd that work?
Yeah. He bought in.
I see. And how did you come up with the funds to buy out your first guy? How'd you do that?
I mortgaged the house. Like, yeah, I did it. I refinanced the house.
Oh man. Did you tell your wife after you got the refi? You're like, hey, by the way, I want to tell you,
my wife and I are like this.
Okay,
when we make big decisions, we're like, before I quit my 8 to 5, I think my wife prayed for like 6 months before she gave me the thumbs up. I'm like, look, happy wife, happy life.
Did you
and if
quit
she's not all in, I can't be all in.
Did you quit before the refi or after?
Oh, after, way after. Yeah. So I quit my day job maybe 4.5 years ago. So I was all in 4.5 years ago. And this is way back. Yeah.
All right. I was wondering how you bought out the first guy. Well, okay. All right. So then the second partner you meet, he puts a little cash in, and plus Does he start part-time and keeps his other job, or does he just dive in?
No, so when we originally met, he was working full time at a different industry, but he was at an exit. Like I guess he had part equity in this other. I don't even know if it was a startup. And so when we first met, he was just kind of giving me advice of what to do.
I see.
And then one day he gave me a call and he's like, "Hey, Mike, you still looking for a business partner?" I'm like, I am, Joe. And he's like, "Let's talk some more." And so we sat down and we talked and kind of hammered out kind of a business plan. And he's like, "Okay, let's do this." And I should say I also had another silent business partner who put in a little seed money to help fund things along. And it wasn't much, but a good friend of mine, he's like, "Mike, if you need help, just come talk to me." And so between those two guys, we were able to put a little bit more, cash into the bank accounts, and I was able to design more things. And I tell you what, failure is just the road to success, right? And I failed a lot. I was like, because I came to them like, "Look, guys, I made this fire starting buckle. Let's integrate it into backpacks." And I have a minor in textile design, so I thought I knew what I was doing. I don't know what I'm doing, right? So the minor makes you think you know what you're doing, but you don't, right? So I designed 3 backpacks, and all 3 were complete failures. Like I got the samples in, I'm like, I hate this thing. Now they had some cool design aspects, but they just didn't work.
Okay.
And I'm like, went to the partners, like, "Sorry guys, like that was I was a mess up. Let's go back to like mechanical simple things, right? And not this moving textile stuff that not moving with me." And so, but it's okay to fail, right? And for me, I always feel like failure is just like the road to success. And if you stop early, then you're just a failure. But if you keep going, that's where the lessons are learned, right? Whenever I don't like win maybe a small wholesale account, I'll typically go back and say, "Look, I don't want to get burned from this. I want to learn from this." And I asked them, like, "Why did you say no? Teach me the whys." If you just keep asking enough whys, then that's where all the learning happens. And sometimes it's like, "Hey, your price point's too high," or it just doesn't fit, our scope of, within our market space. And it's okay. Like sometimes it's not a good fit. And then other times you're like, "Oh, it's this feature. We didn't like this." And like, okay, I can go back and tweak that. And it's always good to get that feedback. Yeah.
That's good advice, Mike. When were you, so 4.5 years ago, you quit your job or something like that?
It's like October 2017. Is that 4.5 years ago? I don't know.
October.
So it was late. Yeah.
When were you able to start paying were you able to pay yourself from revenues right away when you quit your other job?
Yes, but not a lot. Like I took some advice from some other entrepreneurs, and they're like, "Look, you have to learn to pay yourself first." And maybe it's not a living income, and I'm still not at a living income right now.
You still could go get a job as an engineer right now.
Oh yeah. More than I was actually had a job offer like 3 weeks ago, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to say no," and because I feel like I'm at this tipping point, and at this Moose Jaw thing, I was selected for this, innovative, acceleration program. And I applied for another one that's happening right now, REI, fingers crossed that I make that one as well. So if I can get into 2 accelerated programs, that'd be fantastic. So when I talked to this engineering gal, I'm like, "Look, if I make the Moose Jaw, then I can't accept it. I can't even work part-time or anything, because I got to be all in." And then I got the call like, "Hey, you made it." I'm like, "Yeah, I made it." Beans and rice and ramen noodles. Let's go.
Yeah, because your family and your wife, they've all been with you during this, right? They all have.
My wife, she has a cosmetology degree. And so she will cut hair, friends and family type thing. And so she bridges the gap. I don't quite make enough to pay all the bills, but she'll come in and be like, "All right, I'm getting the water bill and electricity bill for us, honey." I'm like, "Yes."
I love it.
And so, so it's a blessing to have someone that could help me raise the kids and also, like support me financially. So I think it's equal partnership here. Without her, it's awesome. Just not going to make it.
Are you trying to raise cash right now? Do you have a teaser out or a deck out? Are you on a mission to raise cash? No,
I'm not right now.
Why? Why?
So right now, I don't want to give up any equity right now. And I feel like I like to tell people that we have a pretty wide distribution, but it's just not deep. And so like I have a distributor in the UK, in Taiwan, in Japan, in Canada, in UK. I think we just got one in Australia, and then we have like 3 distributors here in the US, and then we have a ton of like wholesale accounts, and I won REI. So I sell into there. And so I feel like we have all these little revenue streams, and we just need to widen them just a little bit, and it'll just open the gates. And I've also
cool.
developed
All right.
several other items. And I feel like if I get those items into the sales channels, it's going to be, be a revenue generator. Then I'll see where I really am. Now,
Okay.
I'm totally open to talk to people like, hey, do we want to bring on investment? We've had several people email us and talk to us and say, hey, are you looking for a strategic partner? And I'm like, yes, but not right now. Like,
Okay.
let me work, let
Fair
me
enough.
sweat a little longer
Fair
and
enough.
see where I can take this. And then let's give it some lift at that point. But I think I'm close.
All right. Very good. Can you share, what do you think you do in revenue this year? I don't know how much you want to share. Can you be a ballpark?
No, it's fine. Yeah. So I'm hoping I do like 1.5 million this year in revenue.
All right.
Last year, cash basis, I think we did like close to 700.
Okay, very good. How many employees besides you and your partner?
Yeah, so I work with two 1099ers, some contractors right now, and so one lady's helping
me outsource
me.
Everything else.
Yeah, because I if I can't afford to pay myself, I really can't afford to worry about W-2s and getting people benefits and stuff. And so I'm like, hey, let's just do some contract work, and then we still make these bracelets, which is the first thing we ever did. And it's funny, so I've hired my kids now, and they're all braiding bracelets for me. I'm like, look, you got a job. You can work at 9 o'clock at night or 6 in the morning or whatever that's convenient for you. But I need this mini. Go. And so it's good to have that skill set in my house where I don't have to outsource that. But I have used cottage work as well for that aspect, and find like stay-at-home parents, mom or dad, and say, hey, if you want to make this for me, you can, and we'll just do it per part, and like piece count. And so it's been a good business model.
Did you have any supply chain issues from overseas after COVID, all that stuff was backed up in Long Beach and all that, or no? Or you produced it here or manufactured it
no.
here?
So we mostly produce it overseas in China. I about died when COVID happened. So our bread and butter accounts we're in about 13 national parks, and they crush it for us during the summer months. And then COVID happened and all of them shut down. And then when they reopened, they didn't open their stores because they didn't want people to congregate in one area. And then all of my international accounts, they closed and they canceled all their orders. And then REI closed for like 2 weeks. And I'm like, I need to get a job right now. Like what's happening? And I was just geeking out. And then we were exploding on Amazon because everyone were indoors and just like, hey, let's go get Amazon. Then Amazon decided that we weren't essential materials. So they quit accepting our shipments and they wouldn't sell our product. And I'm like, what?
Whoa. No, that's the first I've heard of that. I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, they did it. Yeah, we got an email and said, hey, you're not an essential good, and so we're not going to sell your product. And I'm like, you can't do that because this is the only lift I'm having when everything else is falling apart. And it lasted maybe 2 or 3 months, but I was like dying. And so thankfully what we did was we lived off my 401k, which is now gone, right? So we had some savings saved up, and then everything just fell through. I'm like, okay, this means I have time to design more stuff, and then we can just take out the 401k and live off that. And so we did. It was a risky move, and I'm like,
you are committed, my friend. You are committed. You are committed.
This fails, I can just go back to work.
Well, I mean, the good news now though is it's not like this is just an idea that's still in design phase. Like you're doing $1.5 million of revenue. There's cash coming in the door. That right there is a major milestone. I mean, you get to 1 million, it's a major milestone. You get to 5 million, it's a major one. You get to 10 million. I mean, so you're on your way. You know what I mean? It's not like you don't have revenue.
Right. And I feel like I can get to 5 within 2 years. And I'm thinking that'd be an appropriate time for an investor to come in or something.
Okay, so because you had to give up equity to this new partner. So, but I'm guessing you're still quote in control with the most.
Yeah, I'm still majority ownership, and good. I prefer to keep it that way. But I'm always told that, like, well, if you own a smaller portion of a larger business, then when they exit, you'll get a lot more money.
Dude. Okay, let me just tell you. As you already know, we've had we've had a shit ton of people on the Riderflex podcast from Colorado that are founders, right? We met with one last night for happy hour, and it was a 2-hour sad story about, he's like, dude, I never should have taken that money. I never should have taken that VC money. And then I took the PP money. He's like, as soon as I got control, it's just been a nightmare. I mean, he just on and on and on. He's like, I should have, And he just said, if you tell your listeners anything on the Riderflex podcast, maintain control of the cap table for as long as possible.
Yes, and I struggle with that idea. I actually mentioned that in our little Moose Jaw accelerator program here. I'm like, when people come in and I lose control, am I just becoming my own employee at that
Yes,
point?
you're just that is correct. You're just an employee after that. You're just an employee.
And so I was like, that's where I struggle. Like, I want that lift, but I also want control, because I have my vision. So I think if I find a partner, it's going to be a nice strategic. We share that same vision, and I got to vet them hard before we make that move.
It's interesting. My wife went with me for lunch today to pick up my e-bike that was getting worked on. And on the way back, she said, we're never giving up control unless when we do that, it's a big enough payday for us personally to where if you don't like them, you can just adios, see ya. I'm going to go start something else with the money you just gave me.
That's probably pretty wise. Yeah.
Okay. Give the listeners right now would be a good, let's do it. Let's do the 3-minute elevator pitch. Do your elevator pitch for about the company. And let me just give everybody the URL. So it's outdoorelement.com, outdoorelement.com. You can also connect with Mike on LinkedIn if you prefer. And I'm sure he's on all kinds of other social media. Spells his last name Mojica, by the way.
Yes.
Mojica. And it's Michael on LinkedIn. But anyway, Outdoor Element. Give it to us, bro.
Outdoor Element, we make adventure and survival gear so you can get out and explore with confidence, right? So I develop product around fire creation. My native name is Bodaway, which means fire maker. So there's a common theme within our product line. So you might find some fire starting carabiners, some fire starting knives. And then I've kind of expanded around the camp kitchen. I was constantly using fire to make food and stuff like, okay, so I started making things around the camp kitchen, kind of an eco-friendly mindset as well. So if you look at my other gear, like a pot gripper, it also acts as a recycle tool for those used fuel canisters. And so there's kind of like base camp items and fire starting items is what Outdoor Element is about. And what I want is when people go out and explore, it's like they know they have the right gear if something goes amiss. And I feel like fire is critical for survival. If something goes amiss, if you can start a fire, be warm, be seen, be found, and so that's kind of where I started this business, and it's just kind of grown. And I love camping, I love hiking, and I've been in a couple situations where I'm like, well, this ain't safe. And I'm like, I was thinking like, and I don't have the right gear on me. And we've all done some foolish things. Right. Yes. And so what I want to do is I want to give you product so you can go hike with confidence. So when something goes amiss, you are ready and you're prepared. And usually with my gear, like if you go with the Kodiak survival bracelet, I'll put an extra strand in there where the paracord, which is made in the USA. When you pull it apart, it has jute on the inside, which is great fire tinder. And we want you to make a fire with it before you ever go out. I really believe that when a crisis hits, that most of us won't rise to the occasion, but we do fall back on our training, right? So if we can train ourselves with this product that I've developed, that we've developed at Outdoor Element, that you've done this once, and when a crisis happens, you can do it again.
I love that. You're right. Every time I order something with regards to, because you probably checked my profile, I'm a huge camper. Outdoor. I have a Jeep Gladiator that's all decked out with my iCamper tent. I have ATVs. Awesome. I have mountain bikes. I mean, I go all the time. And every single time I order something, I always try it out in the backyard. I'm always like, no, I'm unpacking this in the backyard. I'm going to see how this works. I got to make sure I play with it.
That is what you're supposed to do, people. You go try it out. Don't ever try it out in the woods. You're like, oh, this ain't working. Like, because I don't know if it's user error or manufacturer error. You need to know before you go.
No doubt about it. Yeah. Talk to us about the kind of stuff you sell. I give the listeners some of your different things you sell. I saw knives on there. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So I'll start with the fire starting carabiners. The first one I call the fire beaner. I put the fire in the carabiner. We were granted a utility patent. We put a flint wheel inside of the carabiner itself, so it throws a good spark out to get your tinder ablaze. Right. So it's a multi-tool. So if you're kind of walking around it, carabiner rated for 100 pounds. And then it has a screwdriver tip, a bottle opener, a tiny little blade for like fishing line, little hang slots for keys. So it becomes an everyday carry. You put your little split ring through there, so it's always on you. You can just clip it on your pants, kind of set it and forget it, or your purse or whatever. And then the fire escape is another carabiner with a little flint wheel, that same flint wheel that's in there. I met with some search and rescue guys at the outdoor retailer show in Denver, and they said, "Hey, we love your firebiner. Can you design something themed for first responders?" And so with that one, I took that same carabiner, kind of made it a larger profile. It fits in the handle a bit easier. I put a tungsten carbide tip on there to break through a window. And then it has a much larger cutter to go through seatbelts really easy. And then if you look at the little hang slots, they're kind of more functional. There's an O2 wrench for an oxygen tank to open up the oxygen, and there's a little bit driver. There's a little bottle opener on the gate as well, but I always want people to like stop. Like, maybe you're not the person that's making the wreck, but we've all seen a bad wreck. Like, dare to be the first responder, dare to be a hero and stop and like lend some help. And so I always sell on heroism and not fear. You know, I want to enable people to go out and help and not worry about like, oh, I'm falling in a lake. Like, what do I do? You know, it's like, no, it's like you're prepared to help somebody. And if you
sell, are you wholesaling? Are you retailing anything you're buying wholesale, or is it everything you've made?
So I sell a hodgepodge. I sell mostly outdoor element gear. On my website, you will find other gear as well. And it's because of this. I come with this premise where if small helps small, it makes big, right? Okay. And I stole that line from somebody years ago, but I loved it. Like, I love that mantra. And when I discover some new product that fits in our category that complements what we're doing, I'll ask them like, hey, would you mind if I set up a wholesale account on our website? Like, we're starting to have a nice presence, and I want to bring brand awareness to you, because brand awareness is critical with small business. Like, if it's cool for making cool gear, but if no one knows about it, it's not gonna have any left, right? No one's gonna buy. And so now that I have somewhat of a presence, like, I want to help others as well along the way. And I feel like you do that enough times, you know, like, I don't know, you put enough credits in, then eventually that when you need help, someone's gonna help you out. Right.
That's why. Okay. I was wondering when I saw so
we actually have a page and it says entrepreneurial support, and we kind of try to say that. Maybe we don't articulate that well, but if you just go to shop, it kind of, you just see everything. But if you go down, you'll see an entrepreneurial support, and that's why
I see it now. I see that now. Okay.
That's why we do that. Yeah. And so,
but the knives, did you design the knives?
I did. I designed the knives. And so we have a couple of hunting survival knives. I call it the Phoenix Talon, the larger one. It has a replaceable gut hook, and then it has that flint wheel in the handle. We're got a patent for that as well, which is fantastic. And then I love that. And the G10 scales or the handles come off, and there's a little pocket in there, and that's where you would put like some tinder. Or we also sell a little like little kit for survival kit you can put in there as well. A little compass fits in there and stuff. And so that's D2 steel. I love D2. It's kind of like tool steel. And it Rockwell hardness around 60, 61. So it holds edge retention really well. This is a skinner, so it's designed for skinning. And then there's kind of its partner, the Phoenix Feather, is full tang D2, really thin. I think is 1.7 ounces. And the end is kind of ground down to a kind of a soft screwdriver tip. And that marries up with the larger Phoenix Talon, so you can unscrew the handle. And so they kind of pair really well. And so they both have little Kydex sheaths. I think the larger one has a little diamond plate sharpening plate to sharpen your blade if you need that. But yeah,
we could talk. Like I said, I'm a huge camper guy, so we could talk about camping we could do a whole nother episode on this. But one of the things that I struggle with a lot of stuff as I've learned. I just learn over the years, and usually it's like you said. Usually it's because I get in a situation and I'm like, okay, note to self: next time, do this. But one of the things that I have built for myself is I've kind of made my own utility belt, not the belt itself. I bought like one of those utility belts from Shields over here in Johnstown, Colorado. But on the utility belt, I kind of created my own version of all the different things that I think I need if I'm going to walk away from the campsite, or if I'm going to go for a bike ride. I'm like, okay, where's my utility belt? Because I have I got an emergency thing where you press a button and the helicopters come. I got the lighter. I got my knife. I got bear spray. I got miscellaneous things on the belt, right?
Perfect.
But I kind of created that on my own, and I'm always like, what else should I have on here? Do I have all the right stuff? I don't know what else should be on here. But my point is, a lot of the things on your website, like I have a lot of stuff like this in various places in my Jeep, and the shit's all over the place. And I'm always like, okay, well, where's this? And now I can't find this. And I need this when I go for a walk, and I need this when I'm over here. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess I'm trying to say, I wish I had a organized holder of some kind that kept all my shit that I need when I do certain things, but I'm always having to create my own bag. Like if I go for a bike, if I go for a bike, if I go for a mountain bike ride, I'm like, okay, let me throw this shit in the mountain bag and then go over here.
I typically do the same thing. I kind of pare it down, but I have like a little go bag, like a day pack, if you will, that if I know I'm going out, I just throw the pack on. I got everything I need. I can go. But I try to incorporate multifunction in my designs. And so you'll, in like for the knives, I'm like, I want it to start a fire, right? But I need to cut at the same time. And so I feel like those two are critical to have if things go amiss again. And so I'm always trying to create that multifunction so you can have that redundancy. Maybe you do have a little fire starting kit, but if you have that knife with you, then you have a good plan B as well. You know,
I see.
And I don't go anywhere without a knife. You know, this is I carry a little EDC carry, and this one starts a fire as well. That's a full folding. Yeah, so it's coming out soon. Oh, just dropped it. So I'm always looking like, what should I have? Now I don't cover all the bases, but I do think I complement like those kind of 10 essentials you're supposed to have on you at all times. And so I'll constantly work with other companies and we'll do like collaborative giveaways. And I've written a little blog about like 10 essentials for hiking and stuff. But I try to be complimentary to what's out there. I don't try to compete on everything. I'm like, hey, if I can do one or two things really well, let's focus on that. Let's not tackle the whole breadth of the 10 essentials and then I become diluted.
I see. Yeah. Yes, bro. Because you could easily, that could happen, right? You could be chasing all kinds of products. Are you in chills?
I'm in a few of them. So I think there's 13. I forget how many there are. I looked it up a couple months ago. But I went and pitched the one up in Fort Collins. Or is it?
You mean Johnstown, Loveland?
Johnstown's Loveland. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
I went and pitched them, and the guy stopped me, and he's like, "You need to stop right now." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Because I already carry your product." I'm like, "You do?" And so he went through one of my distributors, and I was like, "Oh, cool, right on. Let's high five," you know. And so it's been interesting that I have like 3 distributors in the U.S., and so I don't always know, you know, where their fingers get into. And Shields will use Liberty Mountain was one of them. That's where they grabbed it from. And so I'm hoping to get into all of the Shields, and then when I'm doing that, they'll work directly with me. My margins will be a little bit better. But yeah, but yes, I'm not all of my gear is in Shields, but we're getting there. We're having a conversation.
I want you to know, I'm going to send you some links when we get off the podcast. I'm going to send you some links because part of what I do at Riderflex, I mean, we're a recruiting firm for a living, but as the CEO, everybody knows I love to go camping. So I'm always making these little camping videos. I'm going to send you a couple of links because if I get some products from Outdoor Element, then I can be like, hey, my buddy Mike sent this to me. It's super cool. Right. This is what it does.
You send me an address, it's going to be there next week.
This is what it does. And by the way, I will use it. We'll use it. Awesome. I know we're running out of time. Two last questions. I mentioned the URL and we talked about your LinkedIn connection. Was there any of the social media sites or anything else you want to mention, or any other URLs that you want to bring up for the listeners?
Yeah, so I try to maintain an Instagram account. Outdoor.element is my handle. I do have a Twitter account. I rarely tweet, so it's okay if you don't go there. My YouTube, just look for Outdoor Element on YouTube. I tend to host all the videos there that you'll find on my website, but there'll be other videos there as well, kind of like how to use, the product and whatnot. But so I try Instagram. I just started the TikTok. I didn't own a social media account until I owned a business. And so it's a big learner's curve for me. I just like, I don't want to do this. And then they're like, you have to. I'm like, okay. And so,
just do. And you do. And by the way, my advice, if you want to hear my advice, is you got the personality and the energy for it, man. Your personality, your energy, and your passion is what I think makes the brand even more attractive. And so if I were an investor or an advisor for Outdoor Element, I'd be telling you to do a lot more videos, because quite frankly, I didn't know that you were that energetic and passionate until I started watching some of their stuff. I'm like, okay, I like this guy, And so I think that's an attractive
I like to have a good time. I like to think I never grew up, and it's okay.
Dude, it's great.
Everyone's too serious. I'm like, no, let's have a good time. And it's okay.
By the way, do more videos. And I would do more videos with you using the product in the forest, in the wild. Like, in action, I think would be cool. Like if you were like, hey guys, I'm on a camping trip. I know you don't have time to like make a camping YouTube video channel, but I mean, if you were using it out in the forest and you're like talking about, you know, hey, look, I made this new tool, this and this. And by the way, I checked in with the girls earlier today and they were fine. Like all that stuff, man, I'm telling you that's stuff.
Yeah, that's great. I think I get so caught up in the moment. I don't film when I'm out. And then when I'm doing my R&D stuff, I'm like, hey, we should film and we'll so do something in the backyard, but totally agree. I need to have that mindset. Like, hey, this is an opportunity. Let's do a quick video. So good advice. Thank you.
2 last questions. First one is real fast. What's the most dangerous situation you've been in?
Whew,
you know, like in the wild or whatever. Yeah.
So I'm not a great skier. I'm a snowboarder, and I forget what ski resort is at, but I was going down. It was an icy day, and there's like this thing's roped off, and I try to turn, but I can't catch an edge, so I just kind of chop, and I like fall off this cliff. But I grab the safety rope, and it like swings me back into like the mountain. So I'm pinned on the mountainside. And I'm just like, what have I done to myself? You know, I'm just this novice, not knowing what I'm doing. And then thankfully some skiers saw what happened. And so they looked down like, hey, do you need some help? And I'm like, yes, I'm scared for my life. Because like, there's like, 80-foot drop and you just see rocks, I'm like, this is bad, And so someone came down and took my bindings off and I kind of crawled back up. And
wow,
that was a little scary.
And then last question is this one. If you had to define your core purpose in life, Mike, and I know you've probably, you seem like a reflective guy. You've probably thought of it many times, especially with your faith. What is your core purpose?
That's a good question. I thrive on service. Like I love to give back. You can get me choked up here.
It's okay.
So after outdoor element, like that's our goal. Is like my wife and I were like, why are we doing this? Like, do we want to make this massive company that everyone knows? Like, yeah, it sounds great, but what do we want to do? Like, we want to make connections happen, right? We want to make people come together. And I think the outdoors does that a lot. And then, but once we're done, it's like my wife and I, we want to go do just do service missions. I'm like, let me go dig a well. Like I, for whatever reason, that makes me tick.
I love that.
Yeah. So that's at the root of me. That's what I want to do.
Speaking of digging wells, do you know how many people are living without fresh water? I mean, I'm sure you know how many kids don't have fresh water every day?
It's insane.
Dude, I get so revved up about that. When I see people on social media talking about shit that really doesn't matter, and I tell my wife, I'm like, do they know how many kids on planet Earth woke up today without fresh water? And we're talking about this silly crap. Like we're talking about whether or not Will Smith should have slapped Chris Rock. It's like, I don't care about that. What I care about is the fact that kids don't have fresh water. Like, what are you talking about? My friend, Mike, a pleasure. Honored to know you, my friend.
Thanks, Steve.
Great having you on the Riderflex podcast, man. Great job.